Hello class, and welcome to Micro Lab. So this is a little bit of a different way than what we're used to doing it. Usually on the very first day of class you would come in and we would go over how the lab runs, what we expect of you, and then we would go over the safety quiz. And everybody would fill it out together, and then you would sign it, and then we would pick it up. However, because we are having to social distance and only 12 of you are allowed in the classroom at a time, we are going to be doing this online. So what you are going to need, hopefully your instructor has posted your safety quiz onto Moodle, and it is a blank safety quiz. You are going to need to print this out and then follow along with me as we answer the questions. And then the very first day that you come into class, you will turn this in to your instructor as you walk in the door, because we have to have one of these on file for everyone that's in the class, whether you're in Micro 207 or 224. So this video will be used for both of those classes. So make sure that you have this in front of you now, and we are going to start going over how the lab is ran and what are some certain places that you need to know in the lab and things like that. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to fill out the top. You're going to put your name, the semester and year. Then you're going to put your course and section number. That can be found on Moodle or LeoNet. And then you're going to put your instructor's name. So you can either put last name or first and last name. It doesn't matter. So you're going to need to fill that out. And so starting out with the very first question, which is question number 1, where are the fire extinguishers located? They are located at each exit. So we have one up at the front of the classroom by the front door, and that's where I'm at right now, is at the front of the classroom. And then we have a side door where there is a fire extinguisher right out of the side door. But the easiest one's going to be the one that's at the front of the classroom. So for number 1, you would just put at each exit, because we have one at the front door and one at the side door. Number 2, where's the eyewash station located? It is located out in the hallway. So if you go out the front door, take a right, there's a shower and a eyewash station in the hallway beside the ice machine. So that would be used, of course, if you got anything in your eye or anything like that. Number 3, what should you do if someone catches on fire? Notify the instructor and then try and put the fire out. Most of the time when somebody else is on fire, they're going to be freaking out, so they're going to need your assistance. Okay? There is a fire blanket up at the front of the classroom. It's a green blanket, and so this is used to put out a fire. So if someone does, usually it's going to be hair or their arm or a sleeve or something like that. If someone does catch on fire, you need to notify the instructor and then try to help put the fire out. Number 4, what should you do if you spill or break a bacterial culture? You're going to need to notify the instructor. You are going to be dealing with live bacterial cultures in this class. So pretty much every day, they're in glass test tubes. Eventually throughout the semester, somebody is probably going to break one. So if that happens, or spill one, if that happens, you need to notify the instructor so that we can properly clean it up with disinfectant. We don't want you accidentally getting contaminated with E. coli or staph or something like that. So you need to notify me for that one. Number 5, what should you do if you get a foreign object or chemical in your eye? Notify the instructor and go to the eye wash station. Now, as long as you follow directions in this class, there's really no need for goggles or anything like that. We do have them available for you if you need them from a doctor's note or something like that. But as long as you follow instructions, nothing is going to come close to your eye. But if something happens to get in your eye, let me know, and then we'll bring you out to that eye wash station. Number 6, are you allowed to work unsupervised in the lab? Of course, no. Okay, the front door locks for a reason whenever it's shut, so there will never be a time where you are allowed into the lab by yourself. You're going to be dealing with fire a lot in here, chemicals, bacteria, so you always are going to need to be supervised in here. So the answer to that is no, you're not allowed in the lab by yourself. 7, what is the escape route for your lab in case of a fire? So out the front door, to the left, and down the stairs. That's the closest exit that we have. So if anytime the fire alarm goes off, of course you're going to leave everything in here and we're going to head out the front door. Number 8, what should be done with loose clothing or long hair in the lab? Tie it back or pull it back. Like I said, we deal with fire in here pretty much every day. You're going to be using the Bunsen burners or the Fireboy. If you have really long hair, a lot of times people will lean over and their hair will get caught on fire. So you want to make sure that if you do have really long hair that you pull it back or tie it back in some way whenever you're performing the lab. Number 9, what should you do if you're injured in the lab? Notify me. Okay, we do have a first aid kit, so if you do have a cut or a scrape or an open wound on your hand, you need to let me know. That way we can get that covered. And or if you come into the lab with something like that, we are dealing with staph and things like that, not pathogenic strains, but you still don't want to get any bacteria in an open wound. 10, do you understand that safety goggles, lab aprons, and latex gloves are available for you? Yes. Okay. Like I said, we do have goggles, we do have lab aprons. Again, there's never going to be a time where I'm going to tell you to go put those things on, because as long as you follow directions, you're not going to come in contact with anything. But we will wear gloves. Usually we like to wear them whenever we're dealing with the stains, because we don't want you to stain your hands. As long as you use aseptic technique, the bacteria hopefully is never going to come close to your hand, so you don't have to worry about that. And when it is time to put gloves on, I will let you know, or your instructor will let you know when that time comes. Now, the gloves in here are going to be on a shelf. Here's where our gloves are, and we have sizes from extra small all the way to extra large. And most of these are nitrile gloves, so they're non-latex, so you don't have to worry about if you have a latex allergy or something like that. If you do have a latex allergy, please let me know so I can make sure to get you the correct gloves. But this is where our gloves are stored. It's on a cabinet in the side of the room. Okay, so the answer to number 10 would be yes, that you understand that they are available to you. Number 11, should you wear latex gloves while using the Bunsen burner or Fireboy? No. Okay, when latex gets hot, it melts. So anytime that we have the Bunsen burners on, you are not going to be wearing your gloves. Okay, it's just a safety precaution, because a lot of times the Bunsen burners are on for a long period of time. People forget that they have them on, and they accidentally, and the gloves go, farther up your arm, so sometimes you will accidentally put your hand in front of it or something like that, and it could melt. So anytime we have the Bunsen burners on, you're not going to be wearing the gloves. Number 12, where is biohazard material discarded? So since we are dealing with real bacteria, we are going to have biohazard that you are going to have to put anything that could be contaminated with bacteria in. The biohazard bins are up front of the classroom. Okay, right now they don't have any bags in them, but the bags, whenever you come to the first day of class, they're orange/red bags. And this is where you are going to discard anything that could be contaminated with bacteria. No glass, however, is allowed in these bins. So, because we don't want them to puncture. So test tubes are not going to go in there. Your instructor will let you know what needs to be thrown in biohazard and what can be thrown in regular trash. So don't worry about being confused about any of that. But that is where the biohazard is going to go. So the answer to that question would be in the biohazard bins, okay, from the classroom. Number 13, where is regular trash discarded? And this is just going to be in the regular gray trash cans. We have 2 trash cans in here, one at the front of the classroom and one on the back side beside the sinks. They're gray trash cans. This is where paper towels, chem wipes, those kind of things are going to be discarded. Okay, so when you disinfect your workbench, use chem wipes to wipe down your microscopes, those are the things that are going to be put in the regular trash. 14, are you aware discarded test tubes should be placed on discard shelf and petri dishes are placed in the biohazard receptacle? Yes. Okay, so let's talk about that a little bit. The petri dishes that we use in here are plastic. So once we autoclave them, they're going to get really, really hot to kill all the bacteria, but then they're also going to melt, so we can't reuse them. So petri dishes are going to go in the biohazard bins, okay? Because we're not going to be reusing them, they need to go straight in the biohazard bins. The test tubes, however, are glass and we reuse those. So those are going to go on the discard shelf is what it's called. So I'm going to show you where the discard shelf is so that you know exactly where to put test tubes at. So here's the discard shelf. Over here it's on the right hand side of the classroom. Okay, and it has discard shelf on it. So this is where your test tubes are going to go, okay? So when we say that we're done with these tubes, you can put them on the discard shelf. This is where we're meaning. And only test tubes go on here. Petri dishes do not. Petri dishes are going to go in the biohazard, okay? So again, Petri dishes go in the biohazard, and then test tubes are going to go on the discard shelf. Now, there's another shelf in here that's of importance. Depending on which class you're in, you're going to have your own labeled shelf. So these shelves over here, this is where the gloves are kept, but these are labeled, okay? So if you're in the Thursday at 9 class, the Wednesday at 1 class, these are where all of your samples are going to go, your cultures. So whenever we have to have something incubate for the week, and we're done with it, I'm going to tell you, go put this on your instructor will tell you, go put this on your shelf. These are the shelves we're talking about. This is not the discard shelf, however. Make sure that you don't get these two shelves confused. This is good stuff. The discard shelf is on the other side of the classroom. That's where the trash is going to go. So make sure that you don't get these two confused. All right, so the answer to that number 14 question is yes, that you are aware of the difference between the two. Number 15, what is the greatest danger faced by students in this lab? That's going to be fire, okay? Like I said, we deal with fire a lot in here every day. People get very careless whenever the Bunsen burners are left on for a long period of time. So please make sure that when you have the Bunsen burners on, that you're being extra careful and that you're aware of what you're doing. 16, are you allowed to eat or drink in the lab? No, all right? This is a micro lab. We are dealing with bacteria. You do not need to be eating your Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich on the countertop where E. coli was just at a few minutes ago, okay? So now, if you have a drink that can be shut, like a 20 ounce or a water bottle or something like that, and put away, that's perfectly fine. A lot of times people will bring Yetis and things like that in here. A lot of times those get knocked over or left in here, so I would just say be careful, make sure that you don't knock anything over. When you start moving around in here and doing the lab procedures, you'll see what I mean. There's not a whole lot of space, so you don't want to accidentally knock something over and then have to clean up the mess, and you don't want to leave your really expensive cup in here either, okay? 17, are you allowed to tamper or move someone else's experiment? No, okay? Now, since you are only going to, normally you would be working in pairs with a person. We're not going to be doing that this semester because of COVID. So you will be one person at a table. So there will be never a situation where you're going to be touching someone else's stuff, especially this semester. You wouldn't want to touch someone else's stuff anyway, but this semester you're not going to be allowed at all. 18, what is your bench number? So this will be something that you will need to do whenever you come into the classroom the very first day. So this question is going to be left blank because you don't know where you're going to be sitting. Like I said, normally it's 2 people per table, but this semester it's only going to be 1 person per table. And the tables, okay, are like this, and there's a little ledge on the front of the table that has a bright orange sticker on it that has a letter and a number. That is going to be your bench number. So whenever you come into class the very first day, whenever you come in, you're going to look and see what your bench number is, and you're going to write that on your paper before you turn it in. This number is going to correlate to whatever microscope you have. So here's our microscopes, okay? And as like I said, they are labeled. So whenever you come in and you're going to be using the microscopes, if you're B1, you come and get B1 microscope, and that will be the only microscope that you are allowed to use. Okay, so 18 is going to be blank until you come into class. 19, do you understand your bench number corresponds to the microscope that you're going to be using? Yes, I just explained that to you. Make sure that you grab your microscope. 20, do you understand the rights to the microscope and other equipment can be revoked if you're not using them properly? Okay, so the microscopes are very expensive. All the stuff that we use in this lab is relatively expensive. So if you're not using it the way that I tell you to use it, and I see that you're purposefully, or if your instructor sees that you're purposely using it incorrectly, they can revoke your privileges. If that happens, you're probably not going to pass the lab, okay, because you have to use the microscope to do your procedures. So please make sure that you follow all directions that your instructor tells you, how to use the microscopes, how to clean the microscopes, because we want the microscopes to last. They're new, so we want to keep them nice. And then 21, describe how to clean your workstation before and after your lab session. Now, this is going to be a little bit different than years past or semesters past. So we've added some disinfecting techniques because of COVID. We don't want it to be spread around in our lab. So as soon as you walk into the lab, the very first thing that you're going to do is disinfect your workbench, okay, your worktop. This is something that we've always done in our lab. There's disinfectant that is in between. So this is a workstation. This is the little cubicle. That's disinfectant. So you're going to spray your workbench and you are going to disinfect the area before you place anything on the tabletop. You're going to do this before you do anything, and then you're going to do this after you're finished doing the lab. After you're finished disinfecting your workbench, you're also going to need to disinfect anything, your loops that you use. So added disinfection process, you are going to need to disinfect your loops, needles, strikers, things that you are going to be touching when you're doing your stains and inoculating things and stuff like that. So there will be a mat that's on your workbench when you get in, and whatever tools you're going to be using that day are going to be laid out on that. We will have a spray bottle of alcohol, and you will need to spray your tools with the alcohol after you're finished using them before you leave. Okay? So this is an added step that we're having to do to make sure that we sanitize everything between each lab. So whatever tools are going to be laid out on the mat, you're going to need to spray with the alcohol bottle to disinfect those before you leave. And then of course, you're going to want to wash your hands before you leave. We have hospital grade soap. We have 2 sinks in the back. So after you're done disinfecting everything that you've used, the very last thing you're going to do before you leave out of here is going to be to wash your hands with soap and water. Okay? So that's going to be how that is. So the answer to 21 will be disinfect your workstation before and after, and then wash your hands. And then anything that you are going to be using, we're going to try and provide individual packets of bibulous paper and things like that to you, to where we're not using what other people have touched. Also, make sure that you get a Sharpie that you can use in here for yourself. We normally share wax pencils, but we're going to try to eliminate that. So if you can, get a Sharpie to bring to the first day of class or every day. That way that you have your own Sharpie that you're using and you're not having to share that with somebody else, so we can try to limit contact as much as possible. So you're going to sign the bottom, and like I said, the only one that should be left blank would be number 18. That's the one with your bench number, because you don't know where you're going to be sitting yet. So leave that one blank. The very first day you come into class, you are going to put your bench number on here, and then you are going to give this to your instructor. Now, like I said, normally we would have 2 people per table with 24 people in the class. As you saw before, there's a sticker on one side saying that you can't sit there. So we only have 12 people in the class at a time, 1 per table. So the way that it's going to go is that your instructor is going to assign 12 people to come in the first half of the class, and then the other 12 will come in the second half of the class. And you will need to come in and do the lab procedure in that 50-minute window. So that's why the lecture and the procedures are posted online for you on Moodle. They're also in your lab manual, so it's going to be your responsibility to make sure to come in and be prepared. We are going to be here to assist you if you need assistance, but we have to social distance. So you're not gonna have us being right on top of you the entire time. So make sure that you come in prepared every single week, knowing what the procedure is, knowing how to do the procedure, and that way you can get everything finished in that 50 minutes that you have. Okay? So good luck. If you need anything, please email your instructor, and we're going to have fun this semester.